Hello, friends. Welcome to Literary Concept. Today's topic is post-structuralism. Now, let us try to understand the theoretical concept of post-structuralism in literary theory series. So, in introduction, let us the post-structuralism is a theoretical movement. It is a theoretical movement that emerged in the late 1960s. So the post-structuralism appeared in the late 1960s as a reaction to structuralism. So the post-structuralism was a response to the structuralism theoretical concept. So while the structuralism attempted to find a stable and universal structures in language and literature. So if we just understand the structuralism concept, we find that there is a stable, a constant, and common. Universal means a common structures in language and literature. That is a common meaning and stable meaning. But whereas in post-structuralism questions the stability of meaning. So post-structuralism it questions that the stability, the steady of the meaning, the coherence of identity, even that the clear connection and order of identity and the reliability of language itself. That is the reliability, the dependence of language itself. So these are the things structuralism focus. So it questions the stability of meaning and the coherence, the clear connection and order of identity, and the reliability of language itself. So, post structuralism argues that meaning is always unstable. So, meaning is always, it is not stable. It is unstable. It is not steady or secure. So, meaning is deferred. So, that is, it is deferred means delayed or postponed, and meaning shaped by multiple interpretations. So it is shaped by the multiple understandings, interpretations, or explanations. So that is what the post-structuralism argues. So post-structuralism it focuses more that meaning is unstable and it is deferred, that is delayed or postponed, and meaning shaped by the multiple explanations or multiple interpretations. That is the introduction of post structuralism. Now, the key idea of the post structuralism is there is no fixed or universal meaning in a text. So post-structuralism key idea or important idea is there is no fixed or there is no universal common meaning in a text. A language is fluid. Understand? See, language is always changing easily and contradictory. It is something opposite or conflicting and it's always open to reinterpretations. Language is always open to explaining in different manner, in a different way, again and again. That is reinterpretation. This is the key idea of post-structuralism. Now let us understand the historical background of post-structuralism. The time period of post-structuralism, it was started during 1960s, late 1960s, and to present time, and it was emerged in France. It was started beginning. The origin of post-structuralism was happened in France as a critique of structuralism. It was a criticism to structuralism, and the post structuralism was influenced by philosophy, linguistics, and psychoanalysis fields. Understand? So, the post structuralism was influenced by the different disciplines like philosophy, linguistics, and psychoanalysis. And the post-structuralism was a reaction against structuralism's assumptions, that is, the structuralism's beliefs of fixed systems. So, structuralism's assumption of fixed systems. So, what is that? Fixed system means that a system that does not, the structures that does not change. You don't find any change in that particular system, in that structure. So, to that assumption, to that belief, it is a reaction, and as well as the binary oppositions, that is, the opposite ideas, opposite concepts, and the stable meanings, the constant universal meaning, stable meanings. To these concepts, the post structuralism is a reaction of structuralism's assumptions of fixed system, binary oppositions, and stable meanings. And post structuralism closely associated with deconstruction and postmodernism in literary and cultural theory. In literary and cultural theory, it is closely having associated with deconstruction theory and postmodernism theory. This is all about the historical background of post-structuralism. Now, let us try to understand the core concepts of post-structuralism. The core concepts of post-structuralism. The first concept is deconstruction. See, deconstruction means it is analyzing a text to find hidden meanings and contradictions. See, deconstruction means analyzing a particular work to find out the hidden meanings. Okay, to find out the hidden meanings and contradictions. So, deconstruction, that is Jacques Derrida's method of analyzing text to expose internal contradictions. That is, to bring out the internal, the hidden contradictions and show how meaning undoes itself, how meaning reverses itself. Undoes means destroys itself. That is, the first concept of post structuralism is deconstruction. The second core concept is difference. So, difference, it is a term coined by Jacques Derrida to show that meaning is always deferred, that is delayed. It is always delayed or postponed. You never arrive at a final or fixed interpretation. You don't find any one particular final interpretation or a fixed or stable interpretation of any text or meaning. Understand? So you don't find one particular final meaning of a particular text or a fixed meaning of a particular text. So we have the multiple interpretations, therefore the meaning is always differed. That is what is called difference. The next concept is the death of the author. The post structuralism next concept, the death of the author. Roland Barthes, the Roland Barthes idea, the death of the author is a Roland Barthes idea that the meaning of a text lies not in author's intention. Okay, that depends on not in author's intentions or motivations, but in how readers interpret it. The meaning of a text depends on how the reader understands it. So that is a third concept of post structuralism. The next concept is discourse. So discourse means it is about the way of speaking or discussing ideas. So discourse here, the systems of knowledge, that is understanding in a understanding knowledge, language, and practice that shape what we believe to be true. So, in an organized way, so understand and learning the knowledge. So, here the discourse is all about the systems of knowledge, language, practice that shape what we believe to be true. Okay, so whatever that we believe to be true, shaped by knowledge, language, and practice. The key idea in Michel Foucault's thought, the discourse is the key idea in Michel Foucault's thought. The next concept is intertextuality. So, intertextuality means so there is a connection between different texts or writings. So, here meaning is generated between text, not within a single or isolated text. Intertextuality is having connection between different text or writings. So, meaning is generated between texts, not within a single or separated text. The next concept is binary oppositions are unstable. That is, binary oppositions are unstable. So, unlike structuralism, which relies on binaries, so structuralism depends on binaries, binary oppositions. Example, male, female, good, evil. But post structuralism shows that these pairs are hierarchical. So, hierarchical means they are arranged in levels from higher to lower. So, these binary oppositions are hierarchical and ideological and unstable. They are not stable. Understand? And the next concept is textuality. Textuality, so a literary work is not a closed system. Understand? So here in textuality concept, we find a literary work is not a closed system. So that does not uh, a closed system means a system that does not allow outside influence or change, where that we don't find any change. It is an open web of signifiers. So it is a text, a literary work is a open web of signifiers. Web of signifiers means it's a network of words and symbols connected to meanings with no final interpretation. There is no exact fixed interpretation. So we have the multiple understand meanings and different meanings. So, as a textuality, in textuality concept, a literary work is always a open network of words and symbols connected to meanings. Understand? These are the important concepts of post-structuralism. Now, let us try to understand the methods and tools of post-structuralism. Post-structuralist analysis. The first tool is deconstruct binary oppositions. That is, deconstruct means break down the opposite ideas to question their meanings. Deconstruct the binary oppositions. You have to break down that opposite ideas to question to bring out their meanings. For example, reason, emotion, culture, nature. So we have to break down between them. Understand? Break down those ideas. The next method is identify contradictions. Identify the conflicting ideas or opposite ideas. You have to identify in the text the contradictions and then the gaps, the silences, and the paradoxes. Paradoxes is also a statement that seems opposite but may contain some truth in the text. You have to identify these contradictions, gaps, silences, and paradoxes in the text. That is the second method of post structuralist analysis. And the third one is analyze discourse and power relationship, especially in Michel Foucault's terms. Understand the idea of Michel Foucault's. You have to analyze the discourse, the way of discussing ideas, and the power relationships, the influence, the control over others. You have to analyze. And the next one is shift focus from author to reader. So, in post structuralist analysis, there is a shift from author to reader, more focus on reader, from intention, from the author's intention to interpretive plurality. Understand? So, having many possible meanings. Interpretive plurality means having multiple possible meanings. So, this is the shift which we find in post structuralist analysis. And next, expose ideological underpinnings. That is, you have to bring out, reveal, or uncover the ideological underpinnings. Underpinnings means the uh, ideological support of supposedly neutral or objective language. You have to uncover, you have to bring out, okay, you have to reveal the ideological underpinnings of supposedly neutral or objective language. That is, neutral means not taking any side, one particular side, or objective language that is based on facts. Understand? These are the methods and tools of post-structuralist analysis. Now let us try to understand major thinkers and contributors and their contributions. The first thinker is Jacques Derrida, who was the founder of deconstruction theory, and he argued that meaning is always deferred, a difference that is delayed, and he exposed, Jacques Derrida exposed the instability of binary oppositions. Okay, the instability of binary oppositions. These concepts like deconstruction and deferred instability of binary oppositions are very important for the sake of any competitive examinations, for net or set examinations. And the next thinker is Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault, he analyzed the relationship between power, knowledge, and discourse. Michel Foucault analyzed the relationship between power, knowledge, and discourse, and he emphasized that the historicity of knowledge and subjectivity. Understand? That is, historicity means the influence of history on ideas or events. Understand, that is historicity, the history of knowledge, and subjectivity based on the personal opinions and the personal feelings. And the third thinker is Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes, who declared the death of the author. So Roland Barthes, he declared that the death of the author, and emphasized the role of the reader in generating meaning, in creating meaning. The next thinker is Jean Baudrillard. Jean Baudrillard, who explored the idea of simulation and hyperreality. So that is, simulation means imitation of something real. Simulation means imitation of something real, and hyperreality, that is, when fake or media created things seem more real than reality. Hyperreality is something fake which is created, but that looks more real than the reality itself. So, Jean Baudrillard, he explored these ideas of simulation and hyperreality in postmodern culture. In postmodern culture. Then the next thinker is Julia Kristeva, who developed the intertextuality, that is, having connection between the text, and emphasized the fluidity of identity, especially through language. That is, ever changing nature of identity, especially through language. And the next thinkers are Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari. Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari, who challenged hierarchical thinking and introduced concepts like rhizome and deterritorialization. So Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari, they challenged the hierarchical thinking. They challenged, questioned the hierarchical thinking, and they introduced the concepts like rhizome. That is, rhizome means a non-hierarchical network of ideas with many connections. Rhizome means a non-hierarchical network of ideas with many connections. And then deterritorialization means breaking away from fixed boundaries or traditional structures. It is breaking away from the fixed boundaries or traditional structures. These are the important thinkers of post-structuralism. The key texts of post-structuralism: number one, of grammatology, so which was published in 1967, uh, written by Jacques Derrida, who introduced deconstruction and difference concepts. The second text is The Archaeology of Knowledge, which was published in 1969, written by Michel Foucault, so who developed methods of discourse analysis. Michel Foucault developed the method of discourse analysis. And the third text is The Death of the Author, which was published in 1967, so written by Roland Barthes, who emphasizes reader over author. And the next text is Writing and Difference, so which was published in 1967 by Jacques Derrida, who explores the instability of meaning. And the next text is SZ, which was published in 1970 by Roland Barthes, who breaks down narrative into codes and emphasizes textual plurality. And the next text is Discipline and Punish, which was published in 1975, written by Michel Foucault, so who shows how power operates through discourse and institutions. These are the important key texts of post-structuralism. So I hope you find the information is very helpful. If you like the information, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.